Between midnight and 5 in the morning, highways become a different kind of workplace. The traffic thins out, communication options narrow, and the people who drive these routes regularly, long-haul truckers, delivery operators, night shift commuters, develop their own system of non-verbal alerts. These aren't official signals. They're not taught in driving manuals, but they exist because night driving removes most of the usual ways people share information on the road. During the day, you have visual context. You can see brake lights far ahead. You notice road crews from a distance. At night, that context collapses. Your range of vision shrinks to whatever your headlights reach, plus occasional reflections. So drivers who work these hours regularly have built a parallel language. It's based on headlight patterns, hazard light timing, and positioning. It operates without apps, radios, or signs. This is how it works. Night highways are quieter, but they're not empty. The vehicles that remain are mostly professional or routine travelers. People who take the same routes at the same times, multiple nights per week. Visibility changes completely after dark. Lane markings depend on reflectors. Road debris becomes harder to spot until you're close. Animals appear suddenly at the edge of your headlight beam. Most drivers on night shifts don't rely on constant alertness. That's not sustainable over 8 or 10 hours. Instead, they rely on pattern recognition. They learn what normal looks like for their route, how traffic flows, where merge points tighten, which stretches have poor lighting. When something breaks that pattern, experienced drivers notice it quickly. But they can't always communicate it through standard methods. There's no PA system on a highway. CB radios still exist but aren't universal. Honking works only for vehicles directly nearby and often gets misunderstood. So the system that's emerged uses the tools every vehicle already has: lights and positioning. The signals aren't complex. They're simple, repeatable, and visible from a distance. That's the point. Complexity fails at night. Night drivers make dozens of small decisions each hour, most of them invisible to passengers or daytime commuters. When you see debris in your lane at night, you have seconds to decide. Brake hard, swerve, or continue if it's small enough. But the driver behind you doesn't have the same information. They see your brake lights, but they don't know why. If a deer crosses 50 meters ahead and just misses your lane, do you flash your high beams at oncoming traffic? If you do, will they interpret it correctly or think you're angry? The decision pressure comes from asymmetric information. One driver knows something the others don't, and the window to share it is narrow. Experienced night drivers prioritize two things: early warning and clarity. They don't assume others will figure it out. They also don't assume others will react the way they would. This is why the signals focus on specific, repeatable scenarios. Not every possible hazard, just the ones that occur frequently enough to justify a shared response. A common one: alternating high beam flashes, 2 or 3 quick toggles directed at oncoming traffic. This usually means police or obstruction ahead in your lane. It's not universal, but it's widespread enough that many drivers recognize it. Another: hazard lights left on for 10 to 15 seconds, then turned off, then repeated. This often means serious hazard ahead, slow down now. It's used when a driver passes something dangerous and wants to warn vehicles behind them, not just those approaching from the opposite direction. These signals work because they're rare. Drivers don't use hazard lights casually at night. When they do, it stands out. The effectiveness of these signals depends on rules that no one writes down but most experienced drivers follow. First, don't use signals unless the situation actually requires it. Overuse destroys meaning. If drivers flash their high beams at every minor slowdown, other drivers stop paying attention. Second, give the signal early, but not so early that it loses relevance. Flashing your lights 5 kilometers before a hazard doesn't help. Flashing them 500 meters out does. Third, assume the other driver might not understand. If you're warning someone and they don't react, don't take it personally. Not everyone works these routes regularly. Some people don't know the system exists. Fourth, never assume a signal means the same thing everywhere. Regional variations exist. In some areas, a single high beam flash means go ahead, merge. In others, it means hazard ahead. Context matters: speed, road type, time of night. Fifth, positioning often communicates more than lights. If a truck suddenly moves to the far left of its lane on a two-lane highway, experienced drivers interpret that as something's in the right shoulder, give it space. No lights needed. These rules exist because night driving reduces redundancy. During the day, if someone misses a signal, they'll probably notice the hazard anyway through other visual cues. At night, missing a signal might mean missing the only warning you get. Experience matters more than quick reflexes. A driver who's run the same route 200 times will spot irregularities faster than someone with better reaction time but no familiarity. That's why new drivers on night routes often feel disoriented even when traffic is light. They don't yet know what normal looks like, so they can't tell when something's changed. When these signals work, the outcome is boring. Traffic slows down smoothly. A hazard is avoided. No one posts about it. It just becomes part of the night's routine. When they fail, consequences vary. Sometimes it's minor. Someone brakes harder than necessary or doesn't brake when they should have. Other times it's more serious. A driver doesn't get warned about debris and hits it at speed. A vehicle doesn't slow for emergency crews working in a closed lane. The system isn't perfect. It depends on mutual recognition, and that's not guaranteed. But it does create a margin. That margin matters on long, repetitive routes where fatigue accumulates and attention drifts. Drivers who follow these patterns report fewer surprises. Not zero surprises. Night driving still involves unpredictability, but fewer. They also tend to drive more smoothly, without sudden corrections. Ignoring the system doesn't always cause problems. Plenty of drivers complete night shifts without using or recognizing these signals. But those who do use them tend to prefer routes and times where they know other regular drivers will be present. There's a reciprocal benefit. You warn others, others warn you. Night shift road work runs on patterns that aren't visible during the day. The silence and reduced traffic remove some communication options, so drivers build others. These signals exist because the need for early warning persists even when official systems are limited. They're informal, inconsistent, and invisible to anyone who doesn't spend significant time on night highways. But they function, and for the people who rely on them, that's sufficient. The logic makes sense only from inside the routine, which is typical for work that happens while most people sleep.